The Navy training base was loud that morning. Boots hit the ground again and again as young recruits trained hard under the sun. Commands echoed across the field. Every soldier wanted to be the best. Every soldier wanted to make the Navy proud. It was inspection day, the most important day of their training. A high-ranking officer was expected to visit soon. The whole base looked busy and stressed. Not a single recruit wanted to make a mistake. Jacob Carter, a tall and strong young recruit, walked proudly with his friends. He believed he was the toughest soldier in the group. His confidence was high, maybe a little too high. He always tried to show off. He liked when others admired him, and he hated when someone did not. Suddenly, something unusual happened. A slow figure appeared at the far end of the base entrance. A man, very old, walked through the gate. His steps were soft, like he was tired from a long journey. His back was slightly bent, and he leaned on a wooden cane for support. He wore simple civilian clothes, a faded gray shirt, a long old coat. His shoes looked dusty and worn out. His beard was white. His eyes were calm but deep, as if they held many dark secrets. No badge, no ID card, no sign that he belonged here. Everyone noticed him, but no one understood who he was. A few recruits turned their heads and whispered, "Who is that old guy? Maybe he lost his way. What is he doing on a Navy base?" He continued walking slowly, like he had all the time in the world. He did not care about the confused stares around him. He looked at the buildings, the flags, the training field, as if he had seen it all before. But one person did not like this at all. Jacob. He smirked. He nudged his friend and said loudly, "Hey, look! Grandpa is here to join the Navy. Maybe he wants to fight a war with his cane." His friends laughed. The sound was rude and sharp. The old man stopped. He looked at Jacob for a moment. His eyes were silent but strong. Then he turned away and kept walking. Jacob didn't like that. He wanted attention. He wanted the old man to reply. He walked up closer and said, "Hey, old man, I'm talking to you! Are you even allowed to be here?" No answer. The old man's silence made Jacob even more angry. He stepped right in front of him, blocking his path. "Tell me," Jacob said louder, "did you ever have a rank? Were you even a real soldier?" The recruits around them laughed again. Jacob felt powerful. He thought he was embarrassing a weak stranger. He thought the old man was nothing. But the old man just stood there, looking straight into Jacob's eyes. Those eyes were not afraid. They were cold. They were heavy. Something in them made Jacob feel strange. Very strange. For a second, his confident heart shook. It felt like those eyes had seen death many times. It felt like they had survived battles darker than nightmares. That moment lasted only a second, but it was enough to make Jacob step back a little. He quickly hid his fear and tried to smile again. "Should we get you a chair, Grandpa? Maybe you came here to watch real men train?" The old man's lips moved slightly, but no words came out. Instead, he just gave a small, mysterious smile. A smile like he knew a secret that Jacob could not understand. Before Jacob could say anything else, a loud voice cut the air. "Recruit Carter! What do you think you're doing?" Everyone froze. Instructor Miller walked over with a hard expression. He was never kind and never patient. He stared at Jacob with anger in his eyes. "Who gave you permission to speak like that to a visitor?" "He's not a visitor," Jacob replied quickly. "He just walked inside." "He's nobody." Instructor Miller's jaw tightened. His face turned red with frustration. "You don't know who this man is. You don't know anything. Show respect." "Do you hear me?" Jacob swallowed, but he still didn't believe this old man could be important. Miller turned to the mysterious stranger and said in a respectful voice, "Sir, please come with me. The captain would want to see you right away." The old man nodded slowly. The recruits stared in confusion. Why was the instructor calling him sir? Why was he being taken to the captain? Who was this old man? Jacob muttered under his breath. "This is stupid. He's just an old civilian." But something inside him did not agree. As the old man walked past Jacob, he paused again. He looked at Jacob's uniform. He looked at his rank patch. And then, in a very quiet voice, he spoke. "You think strength is in muscles, but real strength is in what a man survives." Jacob's heart skipped a beat. The old man continued walking, leaving behind a heavy silence. The recruits didn't laugh anymore. They just stared. Instructor Miller pointed at the group. "Back to training. And remember, respect is earned by the stories we don't see." As drills continued, Jacob's mind was not focused. His eyes kept shifting toward the officers' building where the old man had disappeared. Something was very wrong. Why did the instructor act scared? Why did he treat the old stranger like a VIP? How did he enter a high-security base without any checks? Why did his silence feel so powerful? Why did his eyes feel like they carried the weight of war? The sun kept shining, but the air around Jacob felt cold. He tried to laugh again with his friends, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. He felt something he never felt before. Doubt, fear, curiosity, and a strange thought. What if that old man wasn't just someone from nowhere? What if he was someone from history, someone forgotten, but unforgettable? Jacob looked toward the building again. Inside those walls, the truth waited. A truth that would soon change everything on the base. A truth that would freeze every soldier in total silence. A truth that Jacob would never forget. And this was only the beginning. Training continued on the field, but Jacob's mind was far away. He could not stop thinking about the old man. Something about him felt wrong, or maybe too right. Still, Jacob tried to ignore the uneasy feeling in his heart. He told himself, he's just some retired nobody, nothing special. But deep inside, that confidence was starting to shake. His friend Kyle came closer and whispered, "Hey, you think Miller knows that guy?" Jacob shrugged but didn't answer. He didn't want to show his fear. He needed to look strong. He needed to be the top man. After a while, Instructor Miller returned from the captain's building, and his behavior was strange. He looked nervous, like he had seen a ghost. He gathered the recruits and ordered, "Listen up! Captain Harris will soon arrive for inspection. Everything must be perfect. No mistakes. No noise!" Then his eyes locked on Jacob, sharp and stern. "And no foolish behavior today." Jacob looked away, but the warning hit him hard. As the recruits lined up for the inspection drill, Jacob's frustration grew. He hated feeling powerless. He hated that an old stranger made him feel small. He clenched his fists. That old man had embarrassed him. He wanted revenge. He whispered to Kyle, "I'll show that old man who's in charge here." Kyle looked unsure. "I think you should leave him alone," he said. "What if he really is someone important?" Jacob laughed and shook his head. "Important? He's too old to even stand straight. If he was a real hero, his name would be written somewhere. No one knows him, but he was wrong. Soon, everyone would know him." Minutes later, the gate opened again. A black Navy car drove into the base. The vehicle was expensive, shiny, and clean, something only high-ranking officers used. 2 military escorts stepped out first. Then the back door opened. Captain Harris emerged, tall, strong, a perfect officer. His uniform looked brand new and heavy with medals. The entire training field froze. Discipline took over instantly. Everyone, including Jacob, stood straight in formation. Captain Harris walked with confidence, but his eyes were searching. He was looking for someone, the old man, and when he spotted him, sitting quietly on a wooden bench, the captain's face changed. Confidence disappeared. Fear replaced it. He walked faster, almost running. Every soldier noticed that. Why would a captain rush for a weak old man? What was the connection? Jacob watched closely, his curiosity now burning like fire. He needed answers. The captain stood in front of the old man, and then, the impossible happened. Captain Harris saluted him. Not a casual salute, not a friendly gesture, a full military salute. Every recruit's eyes widened. Jacob felt his heart drop. Kyle whispered, "Bro." "Captains don't salute civilians." Jacob had no words, because this meant only one thing. That old man outranked the captain, and not just a little. He was someone very high, someone with power so huge. The captain looked like a junior officer in front of him. Captain Harris spoke in a shaky voice. "Sir, we didn't expect your visit today." The old man smiled, slightly. "I'm just here to watch," he said, quietly, but even his soft voice carried authority. "Captain." Harris nodded nervously. "I will personally ensure everything is perfect for you." "Sir." "Oh no," the old man replied calmly. "Do not change anything. I want to see real training. Real soldiers." His eyes then moved toward Jacob, standing in formation. Jacob quickly looked away, suddenly afraid. Captain Harris continued speaking, but Jacob couldn't hear anything now. His mind was stuck on one thing. Who is he? Why would a captain treat him like a king? The recruits around Jacob began whispering, "Is he a retired admiral? Maybe he led a famous mission?" "No way. He looks too old." "Exactly. Old soldiers are the most dangerous. They survive things others couldn't." Jacob's pride felt like it was cracking. He needed control again. He needed to show strength. Pride felt like it was cracking. He needed control again. He needed to show strength. Then push came from his anger. He took a deep breath and stepped out of his line without permission. Kyle grabbed his arm. "Jacob! Stop! Don't do this!" But Jacob pulled away. He marched toward the old man and the captain. Everyone stared, stunned and afraid. Instructor Miller shouted, "Carter! Get back in line." Jacob didn't listen. He stood only a few feet away from them and smiled arrogantly. "Sir," he said loudly to the captain. Why are we saluting this man? He is not Navy anymore. He is too old for duty. Silence. Pure silence. Every soul on that field held its breath. Captain Harris turned slowly. His jaw tightened. His eyes burned with anger. "Recruit Carter," he said through clenched teeth. "Do you have any idea who you are talking about?" Jacob crossed his arms, refusing to show fear. "No, sir, and I don't think anyone here does, Captain." Harris looked at the old man, asking for permission to respond. The old man nodded. "Go ahead," he said softly. "Captain." Harris stepped close to Jacob. "This man," he said, "has more courage in his finger than you have in your entire body." Jacob felt the heat of humiliation, but he still forced a laugh. "Really, sir? Then why isn't he wearing a uniform? Why does he walk like he is about to collapse?" The captain's face darkened. Instructor Miller whispered, "He's dead." The recruits looked at him in shock. "What do you mean dead?" Miller replied quietly, "He died once, in a mission years ago, but he didn't stay dead. He came back. He survived the impossible." Jacob felt the world spin. Survived the impossible? The old man stood slowly and walked toward Jacob. His steps were slow, but powerful. His presence was heavy. When he stopped in front of Jacob, the air itself felt frozen. He looked right into Jacob's eyes again. This time, Jacob couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't even breathe. The old man said, "You see weakness, but all I see is a boy who has never faced real fear." Jacob's heart pounded so loud he thought others could hear it. The old man raised his cane and pointed it at Jacob's chest. "War will change you. Pain will break you. Age will test you. But respect is what will save you." Jacob's confidence shattered completely. The old man turned away and said, "Your body is young. Your mind is not ready. Learn before it's too late." Captain Harris stepped beside the old man and whispered, "Sir, should we punish him?" The old man shook his head. "No. The war will punish him one day." Jacob felt like he had been stabbed without a weapon, because the old man's voice sounded like truth, deadly truth. The recruits stared at Jacob with new eyes. Not admiration, not respect, but disappointment. Jacob had become the villain, and this was only the beginning. The real shock was still waiting, a shock that would soon make the entire base freeze in total silence. Captain Harris guided the old man toward the command office, and every recruit watched with wide eyes. The door shut behind them, leaving the field silent. Jacob stood frozen, his earlier confidence drowning in confusion. Why would a captain treat a stranger with such honor? Why bow to a man who looked fragile? Nothing made sense. Inside the office, Captain Harris stood at attention. His voice, usually loud, was now soft and respectful. "Sir, if you had informed us about your visit, we would have prepared." The old man raised his hand lightly, stopping him. "I do not want special treatment, Captain. I came to see the next generation. I want to see if they are ready." Captain Harris nodded, but his nerves showed. Sweat gathered on his forehead. The old man walked around the room slowly, looking at framed pictures on the walls. Pictures of missions, Navy ships, medals, and fallen heroes. His eyes stayed longer on a picture, a photo taken years ago, showing a group of soldiers standing proudly on a warship. Captain Harris noticed his stare. "That mission," the captain said quietly, "was your operation, sir. You saved an entire crew from an enemy ambush. Everyone in this base knows your name. You are a living legend." The old man sighed deeply, as if those memories carried both pride and pain. "I did what I had to," he replied. "Not what I wanted." Captain Harris stepped closer. "Sir, the recruits should know who you are. It would be an honor to introduce you." The old man shook his head. "No. Let their respect come from discipline, not fear of rank. But a few need to learn the value of respect now, before arrogance destroys them." He sat down in a chair. He placed his cane beside him. Captain Harris waited silently. The old man finally spoke again. "You want to tell them who I am? Then tell them this. Long ago, I commanded one of the most dangerous missions in history. I lost many men, brothers, friends." His eyes turned wet, but he didn't blink. "I watched heroes die so others could live. I carry their faces with me every day. That is my rank now." Captain Harris listened with deep respect. "You are still Admiral Michael Grant," he said firmly. "The only man to survive Operation Stormbreak. The one who stopped a war before it started. The one young sailors studied during training." Admiral Grant looked up slowly. "I am not that hero anymore." The captain's voice grew stronger. "To us, sir, you still are." Outside, recruits whispered. Kyle whispered to Jacob, "Admiral Grant, I think I heard that name before. He disappeared after a mission years ago." Everyone thought he died. Jacob swallowed hard. Shame burned inside him, painful and heavy. Inside the office, the captain continued, "Sir, the Navy owes you everything. Why did you never return to your rank?" Admiral Grant stared at the window, looking at the young recruits practicing under the sun. "Because war does not leave anyone whole," he answered. "Some scars are inside. Some wounds never heal. I wanted peace, but silence is heavy too." Captain Harris nodded slowly. The Admiral took a deep breath. "I came today to see if the Navy still stands strong. If the young ones still have courage, honor, and heart. But what I saw out there," he paused. "I saw arrogance. I saw disrespect." His voice grew sharper. "A soldier who cannot respect a veteran, cannot respect the uniform. And a soldier who does not respect the uniform does not deserve to wear it." Captain Harris swallowed nervously. "I will discipline Recruit Carter, sir." Admiral Grant looked directly at him. "No. Let him learn from life. Punishment will not change him. But knowledge might." The captain waited. The Admiral stood again. His movements were slow but powerful. He picked up his cane and walked toward the door. "Where are you going, sir?" Captain Harris asked. "To watch them face their future," he replied. "Training reveals the truth in a soldier. Hearts will show who they are." Captain Harris opened the door for him. As the Admiral stepped outside, every recruit immediately stood straight. Fear and respect filled the air. Jacob looked down, unable to face him. His pride was gone. Admiral Grant walked past the recruits without a word. His presence alone spoke enough. Captain Harris followed behind him, loud and strong once again. "Recruits!" the captain shouted. "You stand before the bravest man in the Navy, Admiral Michael Grant. The hero of Operation Stormbreak!" The words hit Jacob like a hammer. The base buzzed with shock. Admiral Grant raised his hand lightly, asking for silence. "You will not remember me by rank," he said calmly. "Remember me for the sacrifices made by soldiers who never came home." He looked around. "And remember this. A true warrior respects the past, honors the present, and protects the future." His final words echoed. "Respect is earned by the battles you survive, not by the pride you show." Every recruit stood frozen. Heavy silence changed everything. The training field stood silent. No one dared to move. The name Admiral Michael Grant now felt like thunder in every heart. This wasn't just any veteran. He was a living chapter of history. Jacob's breath felt heavy in his chest. Everything he believed about strength collapsed in seconds. His loud ego now seemed like a joke, a weak joke. The Admiral walked slowly across the field, leaning on his cane. His steps were quiet, but every soldier felt their impact. Captain Harris followed behind him, still standing tall but clearly nervous. Even he feared disappointing the Admiral. The Admiral stopped in front of the recruits. "You train your bodies," he said, "but do you train your character?" No one answered. He pointed his cane toward the obstacle course. "A soldier must conquer more than walls," he continued. "He must conquer his own weakness." Jacob's throat tightened. He knew those words were for him. The Admiral turned to Captain Harris. "Let them show me what they can do." "No easy drills." Captain Harris nodded fast, almost too fast. "Yes, sir. Recruits. Extreme training, now." The instructors shouted orders. The recruits ran to the starting line. Their hearts beat fast, not from fear of training, but fear of failing in front of the Admiral. Jacob stood at the back. Shame wrapped around him like chains. Kyle whispered, "You okay?" Jacob didn't respond. How could he say he was scared? That he felt tiny and foolish? Instructor Miller called out, "Carter, front and center." Jacob stepped forward with shaking legs. "You want to act like a leader?" Miller barked. "Then prove you can survive like one." Jacob stared ahead, eyes locked on the course. The Admiral watched him without any emotion. The whistle blew. Jacob sprinted, but his mind raced faster. He jumped over the first wall, slipped, fell. Dirt filled his mouth. Laughter tried to rise around him, but nobody dared. Not with the Admiral watching. He stood up again, forcing strength into his legs. He climbed, crawled, rolled. Sweat stung his eyes. His lungs burned like fire. But he kept moving. Every second, he felt the Admiral's stare like a weight on his shoulders. Jacob reached the rope climb, the hardest part. His hands trembled as he grabbed the rope. He pulled himself up slowly. His hands trembled as he grabbed the rope. He pulled himself up slowly, too slowly. Halfway up, his arms shook wildly. He couldn't hold on. He fell. Hard. Kyle ran to help, but the Admiral raised a hand, stopping him. "Do not help him," the Admiral said. "A soldier must learn to rise alone." Jacob felt pain shoot through his back. He stared at the sky, breathing like he was drowning. His brain screamed, "Give up!" But another voice whispered, "Don't." He clenched his fists and forced himself up again. The rope cut into his palms, but he climbed. One pull, another, every muscle screamed, and then he reached the top. The recruits gasped. Even Captain Harris looked impressed. Jacob stood tall on the final platform, shaking, sweating, hurting, but proud, truly proud, for the first time. Not a fake pride, real pride. He climbed down and faced the Admiral again. This time, not with arrogance, but respect. The Admiral stepped forward slowly. "You fell," he said softly, "but you stood again. That is the first lesson of being a soldier." Jacob lowered his eyes. "Sir, I'm sorry." The wind moved gently through the silent base. The Admiral looked at him for a long moment, then said, "Your apology is not for me. It is for the uniform you wear." Then something unexpected happened. The Admiral saluted Jacob. Only for 1 second, but it was enough to break Jacob's heart wide open. The recruit stared in shock. A legendary Admiral saluting a simple recruit. A tear escaped Jacob's eye before he could stop it. This moment would change him forever. But the Admiral wasn't finished. He looked at the entire base and said with a calm but chilling voice, "You think today is hard? A real test is coming, and when it comes, every one of you must choose who you truly are." The ground felt colder. The air grew still. What test? What danger? The base didn't know yet, but the Admiral did. This was only the beginning, the end, the end.